Hi everyone, welcome back to Monday Positivity. Today I have the delight of introducing an incredible guest whose wisdom and journey deeply inspired me. She's a coach, entrepreneur, and four-time Amazon best-selling author. Her story is one of self-care and mental agility, building an abundant life despite overcoming immense challenges like brain trauma and cancer. Through her coaching, which adapts to the changing seasons of life, she empowers others to live fully, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. In our conversation, she shared countless nuggets of wisdom about the power of words and how a shift in mindset can transform our lives. You can connect with her through the links in the description and don't miss her newly created self care sheet which is a resource packed with insights to support your journey. Please join me in welcoming Anne Marie. So, first of all, tell our listeners and viewers something about yourself and your work and your services.
Okay, so my name is Anne-Marie, and I am a coach. I'm an entrepreneur. I have several businesses that I run, and I am also a four-time Amazon best-selling author. And I help people to get unstuck in their business or in their lives after illness or just, doing business and having issues in different areas. Sometimes we hit a wall when we're in business and we need a little help. And so I help with that. And I just help to free up the people so that they could, mentally come back or move forward from things. Because when we get stuck in our minds, it's hard to think of ways to get out, to think of strategies to get out, to think of, plans to help us to take the next step. So that's what I help people do. So women entrepreneurs, I also help to build um, harmony within teams at work in a workspace to help them kind of understand who they are as people, the personalities that they have, how they like to do things, so that the teams can run more smoothly in a setting that is a business setting. So.
Okay, that's awesome. And you mentioned in your bio also that you have gone through, intense trauma and illness,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so, what were some of the key mindset shifts that, helped you through those experiences? Because I know, any physical illness, it can leave, uh, lasting impact on your mindset and your emotions.
Mhm.
So, yeah, what worked for you? What key mindset
So
shifts?
for me, when I was younger, I had a, debilitating car accident to where I was paralyzed for quite some time due to the injuries that I had in my spine. And so I needed to pretty much learn how to do everything all over again. So I was learning how to walk, what kind of work can I do now? Because most of my work at that time was, sitting at a desk. And so it was just this whole mental shift of, the doctor can tell you your diagnosis, but you don't necessarily have to accept that diagnosis. You can form a life for yourself by learning to everything in our minds, the way that our minds work, it controls our bodies. And so for me at that time, it was just telling my legs, at first it was, toes wiggle. It took a while, but they wiggled. And then it was like feet move, while you're in bed, you're moving your feet and then legs move. And it just went from there to there to there to where I started walking again. Um, and so you just have to make those shifts and not get into one of the most debilitating things that the mind can hear is I can't. Because when the mind hears I can't, it automatically stops. It's like a car that's driving and moving on the road. And as soon as it hears I can't, it just puts the brakes on and it doesn't move anymore, or it moves very slowly. And so understanding that you can overcome these things is the first step to overcoming them. I know that, for me, even mentally, I had a traumatic brain injury. And so I had to learn how to speak without stuttering, how to speak, complete thoughts. This is so that I could just go through to the next thought and just practicing those mental exercises in speech, reading something and trying to make that fluid over periods of time. And just honestly not accepting that this is your fate. Just because this happened doesn't mean that you have to stay here forever. Um, do I have pain still from, in my back? Sure, once in a while I do. As a matter of fact, this morning, I was going to get up early and I was going to exercise before coming on here, but my because I had been exercising for the past few days, my body was tired. And so I didn't get down about the fact that I chose rest instead of choosing to exercise. Exercise is still there for me. If I feel better later on today, I'll do it. But I think that sometimes in our minds, we just kind of shut down when something doesn't go our way. And when that happens, it keeps us from moving forward, you know? But real understanding that we have opportunities to pivot. So maybe today isn't going to go the same way that it goes other days, but it's still going to go and it's still going to be a great day. So just keeping that positive mindset to move forward and to be grateful for, I said to myself, well, I was grateful that I was able to exercise 4 days in a row this week. And I'm just going to rest today and continue tomorrow. If I feel like exercising or walking or whatever later, then I will. And so just be also gratitude is a big helper of keeping the mind and the body in good standing with them, because body and mind go together. And so making sure that your mind is thinking positive thoughts, hopeful thoughts, because a lot of people they lose hope. And when you lose hope, then there starts a decline and you'll see it just in your thoughts. It'll be like your brain will just come to a fog and shut down and not be able to see pathways that you can take to help you either through your day or through your work. Maybe your boss gives you an assignment you don't understand, and it's okay to not understand it, but just walk away, come back, and then try it again, so that you don't have that confusion. Our words also are very important um, to how we live life because when we speak words of doubt, when we speak words of, I can't do this, and just general getting down on yourself, you are your best cheerleader. No one's going to put you in a position of happiness, which only happens when something happens, right? So don't rely on other people to give you what you need. So for me, I use music a lot. I watch something that's going to be beneficial to me, whether it's a spiritual message or, I listen to music, but something that's going to ignite my mind to be able to find creative ways to do the next step.
Mhm.
And then I think about my wins a lot because a lot of times, especially as women, we do so many things. And sometimes we think about what we didn't do, what we didn't get done, and things like that. And we don't really focus on the things that we already did, that we did well, or just got done. And when we focus always on the not instead of the yes, then that also helps doesn't really help our bodies. So being grateful for, hey, I got up today, I took a shower, I put my makeup on, I didn't walk, but that's okay because I got all these other things done. When we focus on the things that we did, then it helps us to do the things that maybe we didn't get done uh, late, we could do it later, or it just gives us a sense of accomplishment to help us to keep moving forward. Just focusing on the positive, on the things that are, that you've gotten the things that are good in your life. And as you're going along, I know a lot of times we feel like maybe, we haven't achieved our purpose. We haven't done what is my purpose for a lot of people. Um, and getting down on ourselves for not knowing that. But purpose comes from the life that we live and the things that we love. And so doing what we love and who we are is leads us to that purpose. So keeping those things in mind, for me and teaching that and passing that on to my clients is really what's gotten me through is having that gratefulness.
Mhm. Yeah, I love the, last part where you talked about, women having that, guilt. So
Hmm.
I think I'm going to, maybe start that practice, just making a
Yeah,
list of
yeah.
things, I've done throughout the day.
Hmm.
instead of, being focused on what I couldn't do. And
Hmm.
I also wanted to talk about, like you mentioned that, you talk about mental agility as core part of your coaching, right?
Yeah.
So could you touch upon that as well? Like,
Hmm.
what kind of practices? How do you teach mental
Sure.
flexibility? Yeah.
Okay. So the flexibility in the mind is by, keeping, like I said before, keeping it positive because positivity keeps us open, our neurotransmitters in a healthy state so that they're open to receiving. Because when we get into that spot where you're doubting, I haven't accomplished anything, I have so much more to do, instead of focusing on that gratitude were the things that you did. And it's good to keep in check because we do have things that we need to finish, but keeping that openness within us helps us to keep that agility going, keeping those neurotransmitters functioning and not in a stuck mode. So for me, I help my clients to, like I'll give them a list or I will, help them to practice ways of self-care that are beneficial to them. Some people may like long hot showers. Some people may like long hot baths. Some people like to listen to music. Some people lift weights. Some people run. So whatever that form of self-care is for yourself, then do that. And that helps to increase the serotonin and dopamine levels in our minds. And that helps the mind to continue to stay open and alert. It's when we're in, constant inactivity, which does happen sometimes. I mean, I was laying in bed for months, so, but I kept my mind active with positive reading, positive messages. Like I said, music. Music is a big thing for me. When I was younger, I played like three different instruments. I don't play as much, but I listen now. And so music for me is very, and sometimes, you know, um, with the traumatic brain injury for me, I had very, very bad migraines. And, just as you're wearing your headphones right now and you're listening to me, I would put on earplugs or headphones, back then, and I would play them so loud that there was no, it's almost like closing the room when you're having an argument with someone and you don't want to continue to listen, or something's going on somewhere else and you're doing your podcast and you don't want that noise to get in. It's the same thing. You just keep it on and you play it loud enough to where the peace inside you doesn't get bothered by the other things that are going on around you. And eventually, again, it'll build up the serotonin and the dopamine levels, which help to keep our minds awake, which will help our bodies. Because when you're fainting, I call it fainting in your mind. When your mind starts to waver and it starts to faint and it gets away from healthiness, that's a good way to bring it back. And other people may not choose music, but there's been a lot of studies that have been done, even in Alzheimer's and uh, Parkinson's and patients that have issues with their mind. The music just kind of brings them back and keeps that brain flow. But whatever it is that helps you to keep that brain flow and stay in that positivity, I highly recommend self-care for yourself and putting yourself first in some way every day, especially when you start in the morning. I always start from a place of gratitude first, thanks for waking me up, God, I'm still here today and what can I do today? Even though I have my list of things, sometimes you have to, um, I like waking up, working out, taking a shower, putting on my makeup, getting going. Those are my things. But sometimes, like today, couldn't do that. So being able to shift is a
Yeah.
good thing and not getting down on yourself.
Right. And along with music, I find like, writing also very healing and,
Yes,
meditative.
journaling.
Yeah,
Yes.
journaling. And you are four-time Amazon bestselling author.
Mhm.
What role has writing played in your healing journey?
Uh, well, for me, I have several books. Two are devotionals that they're anthologies, which means that other authors are in there, and I have a chapter in there, but I helped to edit the books and help get them to market. And then three of them are my own, and the ones that are my own are all about restoration in the body, restoration for your body and restoration in your life, and keeping that mindset. So the first one I wrote was 31 days to a stable Christmas. And that one is it's just 31 days with, some of the song titles that are popular at Christmas time, but I turned them into positive messages because the holidays can be very stressful for a lot of people. There's these high expectations of, parties, gatherings, buying gifts for people, having your house all decorated, or however you celebrate at whatever time of the year. There's certain holidays that people celebrate throughout, the world that may be different than Christmas, but it's the same concept where you're expected to do all of these things, learning to say no to things that aren't going to be beneficial for you. And if it's not beneficial for you and you're not coming from a place of help and gratitude, chances are that as you're performing that task to help those people, you won't really be helping them, and maybe someone else, by you saying no, gives someone else a chance to step up to do those things. Um, and I also talk about just being at peace with the family. And if there are toxic relationships, getting together and talking about what's going to, especially if it's in your own home, you know, um, I'm not going to allow this type of talk in my home. We're only here for a few hours. So let's talk about peace. Let's talk about maybe some great family memories, but I'm not going to allow it to be a time where, what happened 10 years ago, because everybody's at the table at the same time, you're going to dredge that up because you have everyone's attention. And so creating boundaries in your life with people and things so that, your fence is up and there isn't going to be a crossing over of that fence as much as possible. uh I know here in the States there's an election, and so politics is a big hot issue, and people don't believe the same things or have the same values, and so that those type of things can cause stressors in life. But creating those boundaries. I also, one book I talk about addiction. In 2020, I'm the oldest. My next brother after me passed away. Um, and so coming back from that, I know even one year, we had was it 18 deaths in 17 months, I think, or 17 deaths in 18 months. I
Mhm.
lost track. But the whole grieving process, and it's not just grieving like what a person that has passed away. But during COVID, a lot of us had to shift and maybe find a new job or a new way to make money or a new way to make extra money. And so all of these shifts happened, and life as we knew it changed. And a lot of people were grieving that, even myself. But for me, I feel like the I believe in God, and I felt like I was guided to go online and do certain things, not even knowing that COVID was going to hit. I started shifting in October for some reason. I just felt this shift. I put up a new website, even though I already had one. I was just obeying what I was feeling in my heart. And then in February, I went full blast, and it was a great month. And then March, everything closed down, and then everything was online, but was prepared ahead of time. So I think that being in a state of gratitude, and, in your life helps you to hear things that could help you later because you're open to, you know, you're spiritually open to things that will benefit you. So that was my other book. And then another book is about Esther, which is an Old Testament heroine that's in the Bible, who basically, put aside her fear to save her people, and how she did it. And so part of it is Bible study, part of it is the things I learned through the Bible study, some history of that time. And then there's like a whole chunk that's like a novel, written about Esther. So there's like 10 or 15 pages of that. So those are my books, but it's all from the you know, the premise is the same, self-care, keeping, a grateful heart and having those things bring that mental agility into your life.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah.
And even I'm a big believer in, being guided by, some
Hmm.
higher power. And
Yeah.
spirituality seems like central to your approach, right?
Hmm.
Like towards your
Yes,
clients.
yes, definitely.
How would you describe its role to someone in cultivating, an abundant lifestyle?
Hmm. Um, there is no abundance if there's no gratefulness. And I find that that gratefulness brings the abundance in life. And knowing that you're loved, by God helps you to live that and remembering that because a lot of times we don't remember that. We look at other people and we think they have this, they have that. They're thinner than me. Their hair's curly. I want curly hair. Mine's straight. I used to be a hairdresser, so people would come in with a picture and be like, "Can you do this?" Well, I can, but it's not going to look exactly like that. So understanding that we are unique and we are beautiful in our own way, and as we do the things that in life, we're meant to do, we become more beautiful. Because I think you can be a beautiful woman, whatever you think that beautiful is. But when they open their mouth and the things that they say and the life that they live, you see that, and it doesn't line up with their beauty. Beauty comes from the inside. It's not just in our faces. It comes from what we do and who we are. So managing our words, managing our hearts, managing our thoughts brings on that beauty. And just again, great that gratefulness, knowing that you're loved and whatever happens, I approach it. I try to approach it as much as I can from a place of love. I'm human. I've made my mistakes, right? But I always try to come from a place of love. Like if I was going through that, how would I want to be responded to? You know, and even if it's the darkest, most horrible thing that they've done, maybe they had a bad day, maybe somebody died, you don't know about it, maybe, they got fired at work. I don't, who knows? We never know what the person is going through. So coming from a place of love always helps the situation. Um, Even if it's hot and heavy in a conversation or whatever. And however you need to do that, maybe just listen and let them cry out and do what they need to do and then answer afterwards. Even I find when situations happen, if we, think of a child, if you have a child or you've seen a child, maybe you have friends that have children if you don't have children. When they fall, right, there's two different scenarios that can happen. First, you can be scared yourself and start screaming and be like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And the child, sometimes they're like rubber, they fall and and they get right back up and nothing, they're okay. But the way that we react to what happens, because if we come from, "Are you all right?" and you just kind of, because I used to work with the kids at my church. So getting on their level, making sure they're okay, but in a peaceful manner helps them to handle the situation better so that they don't get scared. So if we come from that aspect with big people, that'll help. And so when we ourselves come into situations like that, just take a step back and look at the whole thing. Before you even speak, because if you come from, "Oh my God, I can't believe this happened to me. Maybe it happened again, or what am I going to do now?" And as opposed to, "Well, this is interesting. How are we going to help ourselves out of this situation?" You see, there's two different ways, and our brains hear that. And
Yeah.
so, when it hears, "Oh my God," it stops, it starts to doubt, it starts to fear, as opposed to, "Wow, this is different." And then it starts trying to find ways to fix that, because that's what our brains do. When we go to bed at night, we may be sleeping, we're in that REM, but our minds are finding answers to questions that we asked, "How can I best do this?" That happens to me all the time. I'll be in a position where maybe I don't know how to, how am I going to address this situation, or how can I better serve my client, who just told me X, Y, and Z today. And then usually I'll be doing something or I'll hear something, or just in my mind will open up a way to help. Um, but that only happens when we're at peace and we're coming from a place of gratitude and love.
Yeah. And I love, your statement that there is no abundance without gratitude. I love that.
Hmm.
Because even if you're abundant, you are not grateful for what you already have,
Yeah.
you will always be, in that state of lack.
Hmm.
Okay. And could you also share like how has self-care changed for you throughout the stages of, your healing journey and
Right.
now with your clients also? How has it changed for you throughout the
Okay.
years?
So, different seasons of life require
Mhm.
different types of self-care. Just like we have the seasons, spring, fall, winter, summer. We eat different foods during those times. So there's different forms of self-care during each stage and each season. So uh, for me, I like to, I love to work out. It's just my thing. And so I'll give you examples from that. Uh, there were times when workout for me consisted of only being able to stretch. I couldn't run. I couldn't lift weights, as we speak, I I was in a car accident where I was sitting still and someone hit me going very, very fast. And so that just kind of, having other accidents, you know, uh,
You're
messed up
talking
my
about
sleep.
you're talking about today only?
Yeah, right now. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it didn't happen today. It happened just a little while ago. But I'll tell you that at first it was hard because I was just launching a new program. All of these things were opening up in life, and then you know?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, now what? Not again.
Mhm.
And the accidents that I have had have always been people who aren't paying attention. They run a stop sign, they run a red light, there's traffic, we're all stopped, but you're still driving on the highway.
Yeah.
Like nothing's going on. So what happened this time is that um, I realized with everything that happened, looking back, um, you know, I got care for my body that I would not have sought for because I accepted what was happening. And so let's just say my back was hurting, but hey, I've had a few accidents. It's just part of my life now, and I'm going to have to work with that. And this accident caused me to have to go to different doctors than I went to before. And in going to those doctors, I met with a doctor who said, hey, I can do this, 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 and that. Are you open to doing that? And I said, yes. And so I ended up having surgery. And the next day after surgery, they come in and they tell you everything that happened and what they did. And he said to me, he said, I don't know how you were living the life that you were living because when I went in there, XYZ, I did XYZ. And so this probably should have been done years ago. And so now I look at this accident as something that saved me to have a better future. So what season are you in right now? And what do you need to do right now to help you through that season? Because it may not be the same as the other season. Now I can walk on the treadmill. I could walk outside. I couldn't do that before because I felt like my legs were going to come out from under me at any given time. And so to walk a long distance without knowing what's on this road and how am I going to be able, do I need, can I make stops, so to speak, and rest type of thing. So understanding what your body needs and getting those things that you need. And it's not going to be the same as last time. It may be a little bit different from last time, but you've got tools now because you've already been through something. You know a little bit about yourself. And, you might need a hammer, screw, and a few extra nails this time, but next time you'll need a drill and you'll need screws instead of nails. Do you see what I mean? So
Yeah.
each season is a little bit different. Self-care is still a big facet of that, but maybe it's a different form of self-care.
Mhm.
Maybe you can't get in the tub right now, but you could still take a hot shower to give you that release that you need in your body. Do you need ice right now? And I'm speaking physically because of what I'm going through. Do I need ice right now or do I need heat? So understanding, this situation isn't the same as it was yesterday. How can we take what we learned yesterday and put it into today, knowing that it may be different? Um,
Mhm.
because old keys don't always unlock new doors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for our listeners who are listening, or maybe somebody who's watching on YouTube, and let's say they are going through their own issues, health issues, or any struggles, personal struggles, uh, what would you suggest? Like one small self care practice, if they can
Mhm.
start with, what would you
Mhm.
suggest?
Um, For me, water is a big thing. It's very helpful to our bodies. Hearing water online, washing ourselves with water, there's like this cleansing that happens when that happens. It opens up the mind, it helps it to trickle and move forward. So, water is a big thing with me. Um, Hearing the ocean, seeing the ocean, bathing, showering, that type of thing. Maybe, a new lipstick is something you need. As simple as that. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money, putting on some makeup today so that you'll feel better. It could be hanging out with friends, having a cup of coffee. There's so many different ways that you can self-care. Um, so
Yeah.
and also, if people want to email me, I have several sheets that I can send to them. It's we thrive at life at gmail.com or we thrive at life .com. There's a couple of, how to get unstuck through business and also 10 keys to going from surviving to thriving. Those are on my website, but I do have another sheet, which is not on my website because I just put it together the other day. But there's a whole bunch of different ways to self-care. It's just a one sheet. If people want to email me, I'll be happy to send it to them.
Yeah, sure. And I will, also put your links to your email and your
Mhm.
socials and your website in the link
Yes,
in the description box below
yes,
this
yes,
video.
yeah, yes.
So that was about like personal struggles and physical challenges. How about like if somebody is feeling emotionally stuck in life?
Mhm.
What one piece of advice would you give to a person
Um,
who's maybe feeling,
well,
stuck? Yeah.
I think for me, the first thing that I do is I journal
Mm.
because when you journal, you get it out on the paper. And paper is neutral. It's not going to judge you. It's not going to say you did this right, you did this wrong. So I start there first because then I pray. And then maybe I'll reach out to a friend or I'll look up the situation online, see how other people handled it. I'm really a very private person. So talking to me for 10 people to help me to get out of it isn't something that I do. The other reason I don't do it is because when you rehearse something over and over in your mind the same way, it just keeps rehearsing the situation as opposed to finding a solution for it. So getting it out on paper for me is the best thing that we can do before we approach other people or talk to other people. Even if you just sit there and talk. There's a lot of devices that we have where we could record ourselves, and then you play it back and you hear the situation in your own voice, right? And it just shows you, wow, that sounds pretty pitiful, or I sound pretty strong. I think I'm going to do okay. Maybe these are some things that I could do to get me out. So that's my first thing really is journaling,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
before
I
I
love that.
start reaching out to friends. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you balance all of it? Like being a coach, an entrepreneur, and then, you have also gone through your own challenges. How
Yeah.
do you balance it all? Because these are so many roles.
Yeah. I
Specifically, like
have.
as a female, as a woman, I've
Mhm.
seen, yeah,
hmm Well, I have, I'll show you right here. I have several lists, and
yeah,
they're color coded for me because one's for one's business, one's for another business. And then, my goals, I have a notebook every month and my goals are here. So I have my projects that I'm going to do, my goals that I want to accomplish, and then I break it down. Because a list to do of things that you need to do every day is different than a big project that you want to approach. So that being said, I try to make room every day to do that. So different parts of my day are dedicated to different things that I'm doing in my life. Like I'll work one business from this time to this time. I'll work another business from this time to this time. I take clients at certain times and I also put in time for rest, you know. I don't jump from one thing to another. I'm very good at doing that.
Mhm.
It's a gift that I have, but I'm also very good at resting in between. So that, I mean, just the other day, I laid down on the couch for 10 minutes and I just listened to, music, relaxing music, very, there's a lot of apps out there you could find
Okay.
stuff on YouTube or what have you, but just thinking and giving your mind that peace to, I don't have to, uh, I got to go there. I got to go here. I got to do this. I got to do that. No, stop everything and it felt weird for a minute, but the longer I did it, the better I felt. And I do that a lot. So it only takes like, 5 minutes to take yourself out to come back fresher, you
Mhm.
know. So I do that a lot. Yeah.
Okay. And since we have 4 minutes left, if somebody
Mhm.
wants to connect with you, I
Mhm.
would like put all the links to, your socials
Mhm.
and your website in the description
Mhm.
box.
Mhm.
What can they expect? Like, if you want to give any message, or if you want to tell them your coaching style, anything, yeah.
Yes, all of my programs are on my website. So I have different ones that address different situations. Like I have one for trauma, I have one for for people in business to help them get unstuck. There's like 12 courses on there, and we're also just putting the courses. Something new that I started just a few months ago is to help aspiring authors write their own books. So we take them from, learning how to write all the way to getting the book published,
Mhm.
and helping it become an Amazon bestseller. So I have that on my website as well. And I have, you know, all of my links are in link uh, tree, which
Linktree.
so if you do, yeah, in the link tree, everything's on there. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, is all on there. But my website also has that, and that's wethriveatlife.com.
Mhm. Okay, and all the links are in the description box.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
thank you so much for making
thank
time
you.
for this episode. It was really lovely connecting with you.
I would say the last thing, if I only had like 2 minutes with somebody, I would say that it's okay to have a plan, but it's also okay to understand that plans change and to be graceful with yourself. If something comes up, um, is it worthy of you putting your plan aside, or is it something that you need to take care of right now and then you can go back to your plan? Because a lot of times we may be so rigid in the plan that life happens and we miss it. Or, we may be so flexible with our plan that we never get anything done. So have a good, steady plan, but also know when you need to pivot from that plan to, make good, greater things come in.
Yeah, I love that
Yeah.
advice. I think
Yeah.
I
Not all
needed that.
interruptions. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, no, I was just
But
saying, I think I needed that message. Yeah,
oh, yeah. Not all interruptions are bad. Some of them are good. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was lovely connecting with you, and I wish
Same
you all
here.
the best
Same here.
and you have a
Yes.
really nice day.
Thank you, Parole. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.